podcast world. Salutations. Y'all know me from the podcast life, relationships, and everything in between. I got my podcast partner with me.
Yo, what's going on, man? It's your boy Tyrone Desperado, your student life, and you're here with us at Straight Talk, No Chaser.
That's right. So get your glasses ready, get your mind right. We're about to get into another shot.
All right, man, let's do this.
Yeah, that was unnecessary.
All right, so listen, man, let's go, man. All right, so first of all, before we get into the situation, let's talk about our social media a little bit. You can catch us at Street Talk No Chaser on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. You know, that's who we are. We want you guys to be part of the conversation. Anything we talk about, we want you to talk about, you know, so we're here.
That's right, and hold on one second, too. Remember, too, if y'all want to provide feedback for a future episode or topic, or if y'all want to be a part of a topic, come through, talk with us, drop us an email, straighttalk315@gmail.com.
All right, no doubt. And my personal Facebook is Tyrone Desperado at Facebook.com. The same thing with Instagram, and same thing with Twitter, so definitely hit us up, man. Let's know what you're thinking, man.
That's right. And Ty got he got a hot seat segment. I don't know if he got any news stories, but our main topic today is going to be about, I don't know if we should just incorporate, you know, everyone, or if it's really just our generation, Ty. You know, kids growing up not being taught how to manage their finances, and then coming into their early adulthood and creating a whole lot of credit issues. We're going to get into all that. I'm gonna let Ty kick it off with his new hot topic or whatever. See who's gonna put in the hot seat.
Yeah, man, definitely. All right, so I got a dude in a hot seat. This is somebody who I despise from a very, very long time, and I'm the type of person. Okay, like I say, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And with that being said, rest in peace, Prodigy. From Mob Deep,
yeah, definitely.
The Queensbridge, the hip-hop community, we all lost a pioneer who literally brought us up. And Kevin, I know you relate to this, because we brought up our Mob Deep music, and definitely respect to him, his family, his children, everybody who lost. Like, that was a massive, massive loss. And I brought him up because I know that there's a line he says in one of his songs, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, so that makes me think about that. But anyway, so in the hot seat, I'm putting Pastor Steven Anderson, who is famously known in the past for doing a video after the Pulse nightclub shooting, where 49 members of the LGBT community were shot down from just a gunman who either was gay and he was questioning, he was part of ISIS, blah, blah, blah. We don't know what the whole deal is. But
they never got to the bottom of that, did they?
They never got to the bottom of it. You know what I'm saying? I really feel like Republicans and conservatives wanted to paint him as part of being gay because they wanted to make it look like a gay on gay crime, blah, blah, whatever. We never, you know, really kind of sought out what happened. But Steven Anderson, sorry about that. Yeah, so Steven Anderson basically praised the shooter, saying, you know, I'm glad that he took out 49 pedophiles and perverts and disgusting people, blah, blah, blah. This week he's on the hot seat.
Hold on.
Yeah. The video exists, homie.
And this is something that he recently said as the anniversary?
Well, no, he said it literally days after the Pulse shooting. Wow. He basically came out and said, you know what? These people are disgusting. They're perverts. They're pedophiles. They don't.
I gotta jump in real quick.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
You pastors, priests, supposed men and women of the cloth, y'all really got to realize that y'all are creating a big contradiction. For all of the people who toe the line of religion and spirituality, and they may want to get closer to whatever God that they worship, you pastors and you men and women of the cloth really make it hard for people who toe the line, because you preach from the pulpit that God is about love and forgiveness and loves everybody equally. But then the second something comes out or comes around that y'all feel like y'all can cater to y'all hardcore, traditional, old school members, y'all quick to bash people. But I don't understand, because the same Bible that you pastors and priests and deacons and deaconesses and whoever else, the same Bible that y'all read from is the same Bible that preaches that God loves everybody.
And yeah, I mean, and the thing that really is crazy, because this particular pastor, he doesn't even preach, equality. He doesn't preach love. He says that he preaches directly from the Bible, the King James Version of the Bible, and that's where he stands. So the reason why I put Homeboy on the hot seat this week, you kids out there, man, listen, hold on to your seats, hold on to everything, because what I'm about to tell you came from not only a pastor with a huge congregation, a pastor with a huge YouTube following, a huge social media following, people who support him, people who believe in him. Basically, what this man done
Hold on.
is...
What's this pastor's name again?
His name is Stephen Anderson.
Stephen Anderson,
He's the pastor of Faithful Word Baptist Church in Tempe, Arizona.
Okay, hold on.
Now,
Stephen Anderson. Pastor Stephen Anderson. Let me drag you. Let me drag you a few more inches. And the rest of you Christians out there, and the rest, and on trash day, and the rest of you Christians out there too who love the King James Version of the Bible, go study King James. Go study him and see what kind of individual he really was. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Go ahead.
Exactly. All right, so drag that bitch, drag him to the curb, and stomp on the back of his motherfucking neck, because this dude really came out of his mouth sideways and said that, and Kevin, you are a married man, you're married to a beautiful woman, you have beautiful children, so I know you're going to take particular offense to this. He said that rape does not exist within a marriage. That the second that a man and a woman go get married and say their vows and say I do, you can basically force your partner or the person you married into sex, and it's not considered rape. He basically said rape is idiot. It's for idiots in a marriage.
So is he trying to say that once your spouse is he trying to correlate God's law and say, once your spouse says I do, that they're bound to you and they have to they consented to sex anytime you want it. Period. That's basically what he's saying. This man basically said you consented to having sex with your husband or your wife. I mean, he was a little bit careful, you know what I'm saying? He wanted to include the women in it, too, and say, women can also rape their husbands, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm pretty sure your Bible also quotes, that you render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and render unto God what is God's, and you follow the law of the land. And I'm pretty sure if you end up in a court of law and you tell the judge that bullshit, you let me know how that turns out.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
But that's basically what he says. I'm going to post his video on our Facebook page. It's going to be at Straight Talk No Chaser on Facebook. I'm going to post the link of him saying this, but he really did. I'm putting him on a hot seat this week. Listen, I don't care whether you married to somebody. You are still an individual with rights. You know what I'm saying? And you do not have to have somebody force themselves upon you when you don't want it. Right. Whether you are married or not. No, I'm going to tell you something right now. As a gay man, yes, I may say I do to you, but if you try to come at me with that I owe you something, that I owe you sex, that's not going to happen. I decide when I want to have sex, and you decide when you have sex. Women decide when they want to have sex. The men decide when they want to have sex. Nobody has the right to force themselves on you. I'm a victim of sexual abuse, and I'm telling you right now, no one has the right to put their hands on you when you do not give them consent, married or not. Period, point blank, end of story.
Right.
Now, you as a married man, Kevin, I mean, how do you view your vows of marriage when it comes to intimacy? Because we talked about intimacy within the marriage. We talked about it on our last show, but it's real. Yeah,
and it's, you know what's interesting? It's actually a good segue because our last episode, we recently did a podcast talking about the importance of sex in monogamous relationships. And it's funny because we were talking about, you know, towing that line and how people, you know, when you're in a committed relationship, you kind of do take on the obligation that you want to please your partner.
Yes, exactly.
But by no means does that mean that if you say I do, that means you can't say I don't from time to time. It does not mean that. Now,
and it doesn't
and I'm not trying to make
the right to force themselves upon you because you committed to them, you know?
Of course. And I'm not trying to make light of anything, but you just better not say no to me. But, you know, that's
that's the tea, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah. All right, so we're definitely putting Steven Anderson in the hot seat this week. We're going to post that video on our Facebook page. I think I'm going to post it on our Twitter page, too. Please let us know what you think. He got dragged. He got dragged by even a lot of his followers was not having that. You know what I mean? Women have the right to choose. And he did spin it and try to say, oh, it's the same if women want to have, you know, do that to their husbands, blah, blah, blah.
Which is crazy,
if a man doesn't want to have sex, it's not going to work. It's just not going to happen.
Which is crazy, though. It's crazy,
let's
too,
be
because,
honest. Yeah.
you know, and we all know this. This is common knowledge. The majority of any congregation is made up by majority females. That's a big risk for you to get on that pulpit and talk to your congregation, who I'm pretty sure is more than half, you know, females. It's a big risk. It's a big risk because those types of comments are direct insults to women, more so than it is to men.
It is, because we're not going to sit here and pretend that, you know, women are around here craving sex and going around banging a bunch of dudes. It really is. You know, and the thing that it brings up in my mind is the situation with the Duggars, which are 19 Kids and Counting, which is a show that was on TLC where the oldest brother molested 3 of his sisters. And the parents of this child came forward and said, you know, we talk to other Christian families, and that's something that happens normally. The reason why that happens is because Christians don't want to talk to their children about sex.
Right.
They don't want to normalize sex. They don't want to say it's a normal thing. This is something you're experiencing. This is part of life.
And that's true, and that's a good point.
We grew up in families that taught us, yes, this is a normal thing. You're going to have these feelings. You're going to have these desires. But if you repress these young kids, they're going to go out and experience it for themselves, and that's dangerous.
Because the problem is that a lot of these old school and highly religious parents and grandparents, you know, they were under the misdirected perception that if you talk to your children about sex and educate them, that you're promoting it, and that's not true. But that was the times that they lived in, and so that's what they thought. And so it ended up putting a lot of kids, you know, when they got into their adulthood and started experimenting with their sexuality and things like that, it put them in a bad place.
Yeah. I remember asking my mother what sex was when I was 6. And my mother could have easily said, no, you're too young to know, but she knew that I heard it from somebody else, you know, because I'm a young man who had uncles who were teenagers when I was 6 years old. So you hear what they say, you hear what they talk about. They don't really censor what they say around especially around young boys. They don't censor what they say. So I heard what they said, but I didn't understand it fully. I went to and she told me specifically what it was about when I was 6 years old, because she said, you asked the question, so you're ready to learn. And she said to me, she was like, I would rather you hear from me than to get the wrong information
Yep.
from somebody else.
And I believe that, don't, if your kids ask the question, then accept that they're ready for the answer. And of course you can cater it to the mind of that 6-year-old or 8-year-old or 10-year-old. But if they're asking a question, then it's time to talk about it, because they're asking now, but they ain't gonna always ask. And education is power. All right. So what are we getting into our main segment? Let's
get into the main segment. Before we get into the main segment, again, guys, hit us up on social media, Straight Talk No Chaser, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Hit us up. Just be part of this conversation. Hit us up with emails. If you got a question about a future show, let us know. But Kevin's gonna take us right into the next segment.
And real quick, too, when y'all comment and y'all, put your little 2 cents in, which is definitely what I like, definitely what we want for this platform, make your comments clear and concise, because some of the feedback that I've been getting from people, it's not too clear exactly what their point is from one way or the other. So when y'all comment, definitely speak up and let us know what y'all think. We ain't always right. We just give it to y'all straight how we feel. And then we open the door for y'all to come through and comment and, speak your piece about it. But just make sure it's clear and it's concise, because I'm definitely going to talk about it the next time we get on the air.
Mm-hmm.
But today, me and Ty wanted to talk about, coming up in our generation, and it's not a knock on our parents, because they didn't really know, you know what I'm saying? Because there's been so many advances in not just technology, but in finances, over the past 20, 30 years, with credit cards going mainstream and, different types of bank accounts and, utilizing credit the right way. There's a lot of kids, especially in our generation, who weren't raised to properly manage their finances. And then what we're noticing is happening is, you get into your early to mid-20s, you abuse your credit, and then by the time you get to the age where you're ready to, get a house or do these types of things that you should be able to do and enjoy your life for working hard every day, you can't, because your finances are all fucked up and your credit's all, it's all out of order. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What you think about that, Ty?
It's definitely difficult, and I definitely think our parents was kind of like the first generation to really kind of explore credit, and I don't think they was properly prepared to deal with the consequences of it and deal with what's going to happen, because nobody was talking about credit scores in the 60s and 70s or even the 80s. You know what I mean? We weren't talking about that.
Right.
And I just remember my mom getting credit cards and taking me and my brother school shopping for new clothes and doing like the whole 9 yards and stuff like that. But I don't, she was a kid herself. She was in her early 20s. She didn't really know, and it got her into a lot of trouble, because you just didn't really know how to handle it, how to do it. And I think that now that she kind of educated herself, she could kind of pass down that knowledge to me and my brother and say, okay, this is the do's and don'ts of how to manage your credit, how to get credit cards, and what to do, and what finance rates is, and interest rates is, and all that shit, you know what I mean? But it was tough for them. I don't envy our parents having to go through that, that learning curve on their own, because they didn't have people before them to say, this is what you need to do. This is free money.
And the thing is, too, is that
back with interest,
Exactly. And the thing is, too, is like, so kids are smarter now, and kids are learning, at earlier ages how to do, more complex things. And so now I feel like we're in a better position to teach our children, especially from the mistakes that we made. I feel like our parents and grandparents before them didn't really know the full consequences of, abusing lines of credit and things like that, because you walk around and, people have a wallet full of credit cards, you know what I mean? But, for someone like me, I like to think that, I had a pretty decent balance. Obviously, I did make, some financial mistakes coming up. And, of course, and being in your early 20s, that's the time that you're going to make mistakes and make them, I'm not saying don't, just understand that it takes a lot longer to fix your credit and your finances once it's messed up than it does to mess them up, especially once you start incorporating people are having families younger and having kids younger. And it's just not a good position to be in, because you can work every day and work super hard. You punch in the clock day in and day out, night and day around the clock. But, when you put yourself in a bad situation financially, it could seem like you're not getting any gain out of going to work every day. And it can create a lot of other issues. You know what I'm saying? It can create depression. It can create marriage issues. It can create relationship issues and all types of issues that people don't realize. You know, it's easier to spend than it is to make. You know what I'm saying? And I will say that the system is not really designed for us to really be financially adept like we should be. You know, there's no reason for why the vast majority of the things that we learn in public schools will address stuff that later on in our adult life we will never use again. But at the same time, the things that we could and should be taught, we're not. And that's a big kind of, you know, hang up I have with the public school system. And I don't know what it's like in other countries, but I feel like, you know, there really should be some implementation of some type of financial management, or, you know, how to have control of your finances when you're in school, because it does start young. And if you have an understanding of it, it won't be a thing that you fear later on, because, you know, finances is the number one, for as high as the divorce rate is, it's the number one reason for why marriage is dissolved. You know, it's usually because of finances. It's a big issue, you know, and I think as big an issue as it creates for us as consumers, to me, it creates an issue for the country overall as well, too. You know, when you have more citizens than not, there's only 1% of people that are, you know, wealthy and have complete financial freedom. That's 99% of us who are just struggling to get by. And the middle class is almost non-existent. You know what I mean? Like, it just takes a lot more.
Yeah,
it's getting worse, and it's only going to get worse. So I think I don't know where to go, because it's like, you know, we weren't taught, you know, how to do it, and so we created so many issues for ourselves. You know, so how do you teach your children when you haven't been taught, and how do you break that perpetual cycle?
Well,
that's the hard part.
I think the first step is to teach your children the value of money. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, we need to stop teaching our children that they don't need the next new pair of Jordans. They don't need to have the best clothes, the best car, the best this, the best that. You know what I'm saying? And I think we are always keeping up, you know, trying to keep up with the Joneses. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody wants the next best thing. And I think if you educate your children and you teach them that they don't need to have all this and all of that to be part of the in crowd, to be part of, like, the popular, you know, crew. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's where it starts, because a lot of times as parents, we want our children to have more than we had. We want them to look good, have the latest clothing, and do that. But, you know, when you start to do that, when you start to buy them these nice clothes that you know you can't afford, these new sneakers that you know you can't afford, you're putting in their head that this is what's important. What's important is not my intellect, it's not the way I take care of myself, it's what I'm wearing. And I think a lot of parents make the mistake in teaching their children that this is what's important, you know?
Right. And it's hard to break that cycle.
That's not what's important, yeah. You have to break that cycle.
And it's extremely hard, especially when we remember what it was like when the new Jordans was coming out, or whatever was coming out, and we wanted it and couldn't get it. And, of course, naturally, you want to give your kids what you didn't have. And, you know, it's a tough line. It really is a tough line to walk. And I think what also ties in, I meet a lot of parents who are older, like in their late 50s, you know, mid-50s, late 50s. And what about when you start to deal with situations where a majority of households now are split up, you know, where you have mom living in one house and dad living in another house or in another town, and then you have a parent who feels bad, and so then they over-shelter their kids and then pay for everything, and and they don't teach them that responsibility, because what I'm noticing that's happening now is that a lot of these kids are being sheltered way too long. And then once they are at a point where they do have to go out there and fend for themselves, it's a total shock, and they don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard, because you go to work every day, you feel like you should be able to have the latest and the newest and the up-to-date stuff. And yeah, if you work hard, yeah, you should be able to reap the benefits of that. But then at the same time, it's a trap, because the stuff that we spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on ain't worth the money that we're spending on it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of it's like a catch-22.
Yeah, it's difficult being a parent in this day and age, because we are no longer in the age where hard work guarantees a good life. We're not in the age anymore. You know what I mean? Our parents had the ability, and their parents had the ability to say, you know what, if you work hard, you get a good job, you're going to have a good life. We're not in that phase anymore. We have college students with degrees, university students with degrees who are waiting tables, who are in debt. I just paid off my student loans 3 years ago. At 35 years old, that's when I paid off my student loans.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it literally took me that long to pay off my student loans. It's like we're not living in the world of hard work and get you a good reward. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
not anymore.
Are not out there. You know.
And the thing
we
is,
live
too,
in a completely different society. So what do you tell your children? Go to school, work hard, and that'll get you a good job.
And I know
That's
people,
anymore.
and I know people who they go to school, they work hard, they earn their degree, and then they come out with $100,000+ in student loans. They're pretty much paying for a mortgage on a small home for their student loans, and it's like, how can you ever hope to get yourself to a position where you can get a home and have real ownership and live that American dream? And at the same time, you don't want to discourage people from wanting to go to college, but from my perspective, it's almost like pointless because, like you said, you go to college and you come out and then you're working in a Cheesecake Factory or you're getting these entry-level positions, and it's like, what did I do this for? Especially when you turn around and you see people who didn't go that route and they're doing the same jobs. Or it's all about who you know. You know what I mean? And if you want to make it important to have a piece of paper that says you're proficient or advanced in this or that, category in life or whatever it is, that field that you want to get into, then at least make it worthwhile to do that. Don't make it impossible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's crazy, and like I said, being a parent nowadays, I don't envy parents having to tell their children, yes, you can go to school, you can get an education, you can learn all there is to know, and you still might struggle.
And
that's a hard pill to swallow because our parents didn't have that.
No,
they could really, with 100% full confidence, tell us, you work hard, you go to school, you get your education. Yes, you will become somebody, and we can't tell our children now.
Right.
So,
and even back then,
the blame on?
Even back then, when parents weren't the best at managing money, and they made mistakes and messed up financially. At least there was a time when people had pensions they could count on, and then when they retired, they got, what I mean? They got their benefits or 401k or whatever. But now it's getting increasingly harder to find companies that offer these types of things. You know what I mean? So you really got to be proactive. And then the stock market, if you want to talk about 401ks and stuff like that, it's still beneficial if you have nothing else to fall back on. But it's such a gamble, and things are so unstable now that something goes on in small little country in the corner of the world, and it can affect the whole market. So it's lack of education, but at the same time, it's really like it's like a free for all. It's like a toss up because anything can happen on any given day, and the majority of us do, for the most part, live paycheck to paycheck. For the most part, and it's like something happens, you get sick, or there's any type of layoff or whatever, and that could pretty much put your whole family, your whole household in a whole different place. And you know what I want to tie into this too, and I really want to know what you think about it? It seems like every other culture knows how to come together as a family, pool their resources, generations, and they all get a house, and they all live together, and they all help out and pull, their resources together to benefit the family. But why does it seem like, I don't want to make it racial, but why does it seem like we struggle with that? We want our own space. We don't want to come together. We don't want to, live under the same roof with family members. And it's beyond me. I don't understand that.
I think as, African Americans, I think living in this kind of country, we try to, I think we treat ourselves like we have something to prove. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think getting out of the ghetto, getting out of those financial strains, making something ourselves, we feel like we have to prove it. And I think that kind of stepping back into that kind of formula almost makes it feel like we're failures. Even though it's not being a failure, you're basically stepping up to try to take care of your family,
Right.
I still feel like that we treat each other in the black community like we have to prove something. We got to prove that we did this. We got to prove that we did that. you know what I mean? And unfortunately, family takes a back seat to that, and that's really, really, really sad, you know. You know, it was very customary in black communities where your great-great-great-grandmother was damn near living in your attic, you know what I mean? Because you're not putting her in a home. You know what I mean? Exactly. She's going to come. Right. Like, even myself, to me, like, my mother will never be in a home. She will be in my house until the day that she dies. Like, if my father, God forbid, passed away and it's just me and my mother and she can't take care of herself, I'm not putting my mother in no home.
Right.
But I'm from that generation who don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? Yes, my mother will be in a big old hospital bed in the bedroom in my house. I don't care if it's the bedroom, the attic, the basement, whatever. That's where my mom's going to be. But I just feel like a lot of people are so trying to keep up appearances. They don't want, you know, to show the struggle that their family go through. So they're not there for each other. You know what I mean? It's pretty sad, you know?
It is, and that's why we can't really acquire wealth, because of our attitude. And I understand I understand it's systemic, and I understand it's been drilled into us for so long, but at some point, like we always say, you got to break that cycle. So if we were going to break the cycle and we were really going to start teaching these kids coming up from the beginning how to get control of their finances before their finances get control of them, and before the finances becomes a way of life, as it does as you get into adulthood, where do we start with that? Do we implement that in the schools? Do we do it at home? Like, where do we start with that? Because so many of us are financially illiterate and uneducated and ignorant to so many, you know, aspects of the financial world.
Yeah. You know, I mean, and also too, we came from a generation where we got allowances. We got a certain amount of money that we were able to spend a week, and once you spent that, you were done. Like, my mother gave me an allowance, and once that money was gone, that was it. I wasn't getting any more, so I learned the value of a dollar. So I think we need to start making children have some responsibility when it comes to money and to earn some type of money. I don't feel like doing chores is a way to treat children to earn money, because chores is stuff you should be doing anyway.
Right.
You know, if you keeping your bedroom clean, keeping the bathroom clean, that's something you should do because you take pride of where you live. This is my home. This is my space. So I don't necessarily think that that's the best way to reward children. I also don't think good grades is also a good way to reward children, because they need to want that for themselves. Not, you know, let me get a...
And don't just do something because you think there's an award attached to it.
Exactly. But they do need some sort of way to get compensation for the way they live their lives. And I think parents need to tap into that. They need to tap into a way to say, you know what, I'm going to reward my child for doing this and that, so they can earn money. They can know the value of a dollar, but they also need to know that once I give them this and that money's gone, then that's it. You're not going to get any more until it's time for you to work again, you know? So you really got to kind of play the field a little bit. And you got to tap into your children. You need to get to know your children. You need to get to know who they are, what they value, what they like, what they love, what they don't like. Because I feel like a lot of parents don't even know their children. They allow television and social media and everything to raise their kids, but they're not really getting to know their children themselves, because you have to raise every child differently. You know, every kid is not going to be the same, you know. So tapping into what their needs are, their loves are, their likes, their dislikes, and stuff like that, and raising them accordingly, I think would help, you know, a lot.
What I'm hearing is, and I think this is true too, and I think it ties in with the chores and everything, I think all of the things that you mentioned can go a far way with teaching kids how to be responsible and accountable in general, and I think that will spill over. Even if you're not a financial expert, just teaching your kids responsibility and why things need to be done a certain way, I think that will spill over and have a positive effect all the way around the board, I think.
No, I agree 100%. Definitely think that's the way to go, you know.
So how do we, because it's one thing to say it and talk about it, but it's another thing to put it into practice. So, I mean, you know, where a lot of these kids feel entitled now and they have so many things that we never had, you know, how do you create that real sense of reality when it's not really there for them yet?
It's hard, but you know what it is? Kids learn from the home. They learn from the way their parents are, the way they live, prior to going to school and getting out into the real world and seeing how other people and other children react. You have to start from day one,
Definitely.
You really have to start from day one before they even get out into the because the real world for children is kindergarten, going out, meeting other people who are raised by different types of parents. You have to have something instilled in them just from day one,
Mm-hmm.
Do you think hard. That... It's definitely not... I don't envy the situation. I really don't,
Right. I know this is
I don't even have an answer, I got to be honest with you.
I know this is probably way too deep and multi-layered for a single podcast episode, but do you think that the way that our government is structured, the kind of free market, capitalistic society that we call America, do you think that plays a part also?
No, I don't. I don't think it plays a part. I really honestly feel like that the ultimate education that most young children are going to get is going to be from the home.
No, but what I'm saying is from the standpoint of America's kind of the way that America is structured, it really is like all about the haves and the have-nots. And it really is all about separation of money and, if you have it, you're kind of, above the fray, and if you don't, you're kind of left behind and forgotten. I kind of feel like,
that's something that affects all of us, even
right,
us as adults.
Exactly.
Even us as adults. Like, I would sit up here, I'll be so naive if I sit up here and say, I am not affected by,
of course,
how the world and how the government runs itself. Absolutely is 100,000% affects the way I live my life and what I spend my money on. And
so that's kind of my point.
We all are, you know what I mean? And we will be lying if we say we weren't, you know what I mean? How do you put that on young people?
No. I don't mean put it on young people, but I mean in the type of system that we live in where we all have to admit that it affects all of us. How possible is it to ever have a real, chance at really kind of bunkering down and saying, I'm going to be responsible and it's not just about what I want, but it's about what I need. When we live in a society where you walk out your front door and it's a talent show and it's a competition and it's about who has the nicest car, the biggest house, and who has the nicest clothes and the, most name brand. Like, it's almost impossible.
I think it used to be worse than it is now. I don't think
you really do.
Brands are... I think it was worse when we were, because we had very specific name brands. Remember when we were in school, it was very
right.
Aeropostale and Nautica and Tommy Hilfiger. Nowadays, there's like a billion different name brands, and everybody's on point. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have a billion name brands. We literally had... Everybody wanted Timberlands. Everybody wanted Nike. Everybody wanted Karl Kani. Everybody wanted Boss Jeans. Everybody wanted Aeropostale. Like, it was just, we had like a set that we all, like a formula that we stuck to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but everybody's
nowadays,
on point. But everybody
don't have that. It's everything. It's everywhere. It's like I can go to a thrift store and buy a pair of jeans and tell somebody it was $200 and they'll believe it.
But I feel like
you
at the
couldn't
same
do that
time,
back when we were kids.
Yeah.
You knew Tommy Hilfiger jeans. You didn't have to see the label. You didn't have to see anything. You knew when you was looking at Tommy Hilfiger jeans.
But at the same time, too, stuff was expensive back then for the time. But at the same time, when your parents said they didn't have it, you understood and accepted that, and that's what it was. Exactly. I feel like it's reversed now, because I feel like with all of the implementation of all this new era, bullying and being overly sensitive and wanting to shelter our kids and keep them in a bubble, I feel like it's the opposite now, where parents are going out of their way to break the bank because they don't want their kids to get picked on, and they want to make sure their kids look their best. And sometimes they can't afford it. I feel like parents are spending exorbitant amounts of money on their kids, nowadays.
I think that's why a lot of parents are now for uniforms and things like that, and which I don't buy into, because I think kids need to be individuals and they need to express themselves, and it's hard. hard being a parent in 2017. Like, I'm not one, and I don't envy people who have to go through this struggle. It's really, really difficult, but at the same time, it's equally more rewarding to also be a parent in 2017, which I'm sure you can relate to.
It's definitely rewarding. But, if you have one child, that's one thing. But when you start to throw 2 and 3 and 4 in the mix, it becomes very difficult. You know what I mean? It becomes very difficult. And it's hard to teach. And this might be a faulty premise, but I've always thought that in order to really be good at managing money and in order to really be a good teacher of finances, I always thought that you had to have finances and you had to have, like, it's kind of, I always had the concept, like, you know how they say it takes money to make money. I've always felt like if I don't have it, or if you don't have, exorbitant amounts of money, how can you really ever get to a point where you learn how to manage it and do these different things? Because you just struggling to stay above water for the most part, most of the time.
I always feel like the more money I have, the more I stress about money. You know what I mean? It's always a little bit easier sometimes to be broke than it is to, like, have all of this money and, like, okay, now what do I do? Like, what do I do first? What do I do this? But I'm lucky because I don't have a ton of debt, thank God, you know what I mean? So money that I come into, but it's already spent even before I get it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And
it's like it takes all week
for my children.
It's like it takes all week to make it, and then literally that day that you get paid, it's like, okay, that's
already gone. It's already spent.
Right. You had mentioned off air that you feel like there's a difference from our generation to the kids now. How so? Better or worse as far as finances?
I feel like better because I feel like because our generation, we saw our parents struggle with credit and things like that, and they kind of educated us a little bit on what not to do because credit was like a new thing to them. There's really no big excuse for us to really fuck up our credit because we know better. I mean, we still do it anyway. We still fuck up our credit. And we still spend more money than we need to, but we are at a position to educate our children and saying, this is what happens. This is what credit does to you. Is not free money. It's not you swipe a card and you get free stuff. No, you got to pay that back. And not only are you paying it back, you're paying more than what it's worth. You know, if you go buy a T-shirt on your credit card, the T-shirt may be $10 when you swipe your card, but in the long run, you're probably paying $15 for the $10 T-shirt because you're paying credit. And that's not something that I don't think my parents could have really instilled in me, but that's something I can instill in my children and say, this is what's happening, you know.
And honestly, too, and of course, people still get in trouble credit-wise, but I think now I feel like back then it was all about credit and people getting themselves in trouble with that. What I think is more about now is people living above their means, because I see a lot of people spending cash on things, but it's cash that you don't really have. And sometimes and it's like binge spending, and it's like you feel depressed, you spend. You feel like you had a bad day, you spend. Is it even really feasible or possible to stop doing that? It's like having a bad drinking habit or a drug habit or a gambling habit. It's like,
you know, I mean, we really need to come to grips of what's going on in our lives and what really makes us happy and what truly makes us happy. And I feel like we're stuck in a bad cycle. You know what I mean? We're stuck in a bad cycle. But obviously there's ways to get out of it, you know, but
go get 3 jobs.
It's crazy. I mean, I can honestly say that I did get out of that because I always thought I was always this type of person where more is more, you know. I had a more is more kind of lifestyle, you know what I mean? But now it took me 37 years at 37 years old to say, you know what, more is not really more. More is bad. You know, you need to cut back. You don't need all of these materialistic things to be happy. You know, if you want to look good in your clothes, don't go buy nice new clothes. Work out, join a gym, get buff. Because if you have a great body, you will look good at anything that you wear. It doesn't matter if you bought it from Old Navy or JCPenney or if you bought it from Neiman Marcus. You're gonna look good. Period. So it's about knowing what truly. It's about knowing what the real deal is. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you don't need. $300 jeans is not going to make me look better, you know?
That's true.
It's just like you paid $300 for a fucking stupid pair of jeans. Like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
You know, but...
Well, look, man, y'all know we don't know all the answers. You know, we just come through to talk about things so that we can kind of bring a better, you know, another perspective to it so we could all start the discussion. I mean, I just wanted to kind of bring this to light so that it's something to think about. You know what I mean? You don't have to have, like Ty said, the latest clothes or the newest cars. I know I would like to have those things. But if you're not in a position to do it, you're just not in a position to do it, you know? Yeah. And like Ty said, you know, it used to be all about work ethic. It's not so much about that now. You know, what I do see that's a positive and a bright future for our kids is that kids are learning how to network and learning how to use social media, you know, now more than ever, and learning how to create businesses and personal streams of income. And I'm hoping that as kids learn how to create these different streams of income, you know, between going viral on YouTube or creating different, you know, platforms for themselves, hopefully creating more will allow them to kind of step back and, you know, because there's more to go around, you know, they'll have a better understanding of it. That's what I hope.
Yeah. All right, definitely, man. That's a good way to close on this, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, definitely, we, you know, again, it's about love people, not materials, you know what I'm saying? Like, respect your family, respect your peers. Everybody has their own struggle, and everybody's struggle is different, so...
Yeah, and stay away from these, and stay away from these high and mighty, holier than thou pastors.
Yes, please. Crazy.
All right, man. I got nothing else. You got anything else before we close out?
No, just, you know, really, really quick again, we want to say rest in peace to Prodigy and his family. You know, we talked about that at the top of the hour. So, you know, again, he left a huge legacy on the hip-hop community, and he's going to be missed incredibly, but, you know, we got to keep pressing on, and hopefully, you know, somebody else will take the reins and step up. I remember when Big L passed away back when we were teenagers, and now
going all the way back. Mm-hmm.
I don't even know. Do people even know who Big L is nowadays?
I think true hip hop fans do, but it's not too many of us left, you know, and a lot of the ones that are left were old heads now. And it was the same thing with Biggie and Pac. I mean, it's 15 plus years later. And the one thing I do want to say is it's a shame that it's not until, you know, a lot of the especially in the hip hop community, not until like the people that we grew up listening to their music and their music raised us. And it was like the theme songs that they created for like the hood, these hood anthems and these, you know, ghetto, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not until they pass away that we really step back and be like, yo, they really did contribute a lot to the culture. And it's a shame that you have to leave here before people really recognize and really start paying attention, you know what I'm saying, and really showing that appreciation.
Yeah, man, love them while they're here, you know what I'm saying? Love them and praise them while they're still here. Our Instagram is Straight Talk 315, STR8TOK 315 at Instagram, and at Twitter, Straight Talk, STRAIGHTTALK 315 at Gmail. Definitely hit us up, be part of the conversation. You know, we love to hear from you. And like Kevin always says, if you have a suggestion for a future topic, or you want to be part of the show, definitely hit us up.
That's right. If you listen to this podcast and you think we're too opinionated, it's that by design. If you listen to this podcast and you think we just talk a bunch of shit, yeah, we do that too. But we do it, we do it in good spirits, and we do it with the hopes that everybody's going to come together, you know, get along, respect each other's opinions and perspectives, and that's why we're here, and that's why we'll continue to be here. We don't pretend to know everything. We just know what we know. We ain't always right, but we promise to give it to y'all straight with no chaser. We'll see y'all in the next one.
No doubt.
Peace and love.